whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. All right, hi everybody. It's 11 o'clock on a Sunday, Central Standard Time. You're with Casey Oasis. I'm Genevieve. We have a really great lineup for you today. Our featured speaker today is Cam Awesome, who is a boxer, MC, speaker, and comic, and his friend and other speaker, Salinas Willich, is also here with us. They're going to be speaking a little bit later this in the hour. Our musical guest today is Corey Phillips, who we'll be hearing from in a minute. And I'm going to be your community moment speaker today too. I thought it was about my turn to go ahead and do that. So before we get started with our musical guest, I would like to tell you a couple things about Oasis. We are a place where we can gather around our 5 values, which are people are more important than beliefs, meaning comes from making a difference, reality is known through reason, human hands solve human problems, and be accepting and be accepted. Actually, I don't know if, let me make sure Corey is here because suddenly I realized JJ has been rehearsing.
Yeah,
so I think JJ is, was that changed, guys?
Yeah, we had a last minute cancellation.
Okay, no worries. Okay, well, we really always enjoy having JJ play. He was playing a little bit earlier, and just watching him do his thing on the guitar is always amazing to me. So JJ, would you be about ready to start? Okay, super.
Yeah, we have had a change in schedule, so I'll do my best. The shoulder that I lean on was carved out of stone. For when I'm done freezing, I want to be alone. Never want my hand cut off, never want a hacking golf, never need a cliffside push, never turn my brains to mush, always give me what I lack, always take the best parts back, always recognize your fate, always just a moment late, left is where I always turn, left is how I'm forced to learn, left the route my walking takes, left alone with my mistakes, up against a person who up till now I never knew, up from hell the answer but up and down it's up to you, try me half the Chinese wall. Peel my fingers off the rim. Come unglued while in mid-air, land to reform. Limb by 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 limb. And I am taken far away. And I am taken far away. And I am Drive me half the Chinese rum. Peel my fingers off the rim. Come on, Lord, while in midair, land to reform. Limb by limb, limb by limb, limb by limb by limb by limb by limb.
Okay, that was awesome. Everybody, let's give JJ at least a clap. You know, we're going to give more claps later too, but
Do you want me to do one more?
Sure, if you want to play another one. I have to say that like while you were playing the last one, the sound went out and you should have seen all the people like, you know, checking in like the sound went out, and then we were able to get the sound come back. And I don't know about anybody else, but I felt like a really good rush of like, the music's back and the la-di-das, and like, you know, I'm ready to hear JJ go at it. And yeah.
Like it's working now? Did it come back in the middle of the song?
Yeah, you're great.
Oh, good.
But yeah.
I wonder why that happened. That's weird.
Yeah, it's good.
I've got the chat up, but the screen is so far away to get the camera angle in view that I can't read anything.
Yeah, I think Julie saved us all, so we can thank her.
Thanks, Julie.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and do a second one?
I mean, I can.
Okay. How about it, you know?
Yeah, might as well. I showed up, didn't I?
Yeah.
Set up the microphones and everything. Gonna go with a different pick. I think I was using Aiden's ukulele pick, and I literally chewed up the bottom inch of that. So. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Ground control to Major Tom. Commencing countdown, engines on. Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade. And the papers want to know who shut you where. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. Oh no, no sound again? Boo. I'll tell you what, let's break and I'll work on figuring out why that's happening and we'll just move on.
Okay, JJ, can you say that? Okay, he's going to take a break, which is unfortunate in the fact that like that song, wow. Yeah, I'm going to give a little like in between, like moving on to the announcements and the fact that this weekend was David Bowie's birthday. And I happened to see, I don't know if you guys know, his last album was called Lazarus, and they made it into a kind of musical, and they showed it this weekend. You could buy tickets for it and everything. So I got to watch it. It's not for everybody. I think it's for Bowie fans. I enjoyed it. But yeah, this is a good weekend to remember such a genius. So for me anyway, I've performed that song when I was younger many times. So yeah, no, that was just for me anyway, it was the perfect song for this weekend. Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to move on to announcements. Hopefully we'll get to hear JJ sing it again, or maybe he'll do another Bowie tune. We'll see what he does. But first we'll go ahead and we'll do announcements next. I have at least 4. If there's something I'm missing, go ahead and put it in chat so I make sure to get it. Yeah, Rob is asking for maybe Ziggy Stardust. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. First, I want to tell you guys that we have merchandise that's on sale. If you're interested in getting any nice Oasis merch, I know there are bags and clothing. Yeah, Under Pressure is another good choice. Yeah, okay. So with those, all the merch, I recently got a sweatshirt and it's super soft. And if you happen to live locally, there are discounts too. So you can maybe either contact Sarah Charlene, or there should be a list in our private page about the merchandise as well. So you can check there. Another announcement we have is about community moments. Mark Dixon is asking if you'd like to have a community moment, which is where we get a chance to share something we've learned, or something about our own life that we'd like to share with everybody in our community. So he's looking for people in February or March. If you haven't done a community moment in the last 6 months, you should contact him and let him know. We'd love to hear whatever you want to talk about. Yeah, we're all curious about you, that's for sure. Also, one of our community members, Jim Fisk, recently lost his son, and so we'd like to extend our condolences to him. And if you would like to reach out to him, I'm sure he'd appreciate it very much. And lastly, our other last announcement was about Jim Muter. He has a book of short stories that he published, and if you're interested in checking out his stories, they're available on the First Line. I guess that's his publishing company or distributor. Okay, so I think that's it for all announcements. So it's my turn. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing the community moment. I've emceed for you guys a couple times, and the first time I emceed, I was still thinking about what I was going to do as a community moment. And someone said, "Oh, it's nice to meet you, even though I don't know you." And I realized, you know, meeting everybody is almost impossible at this point with the way COVID is and how often you get to Zoom with people. So I thought maybe today I could just talk about my journey to Oasis. One second, okay, there it is. Okay, so I just thought, like, in general, my family and I moved to Kansas City in August of 2019. Let me see if I can get everything. So I wanted to talk about basically how my life has led to Oasis's philosophy of others. So I wanted to just let you know about that, so you get to know me a little bit, since here I am emceeing and you don't know me. So yeah, let's talk about the first, actually two I'd like to talk about first. And these were probably two that I grew up with the most as a kid. Human hands solve human problems, and meaning comes from making a difference. So as a kid, I grew up in a very Catholic family. My mother was a real practicing Catholic in the fact that she believed in how much doing for others made you a good Catholic. So she had started like the first soup kitchen in our town, and friends of ours, good close friends, decided to start a homeless shelter in our town. I grew up in Maryland, so about 45 minutes west of Baltimore in the countryside. And so there was a homeless shelter that our friends started when I was in second grade. It was called Resurrection Farm. And this was a really unique place in that it wasn't like an overnight homeless shelter. It was one where you could stay for an extended period of time. And it taught me a lot about class. It taught me a lot about social justice, about you know, culture, mental illness, of just different ways in which we can find, anybody can, you know, find themselves in a state where they need help. And this place also kind of, I think, with human hands solve human problems and this idea of meaning in life, I felt that more at the farm than I ever did when I was in church. So having grown up with this place in my life, we were involved with it every week. And we had a lot of friends who we've made through the farm. I decided, you know, when I get married, I don't want to get married in a church. I want to get married at the farm. So this was a place that I felt had the most community for me. Yeah, so if there's a little asterisk next to anything, like, since I haven't gotten to meet most of you yet, and maybe if you see me in real life one day, you can go, "Oh, Genevieve, I remembered this thing about you. Let's talk." And I'm totally up for talking. And I'm really very interested in learning all about you guys too. But this way, it's an easy way to, you know, step and meet each other in the middle if you want to talk about these things. So the other thing that has made a difference in my life has been teaching, which I started doing after I finished school and have continued to do, mostly in English as a second language. And here are some of my Korean students. I lived abroad for a lot of years and just wanted to share a picture because I had a lot of awesome students over the years. Okay. Yeah, okay, so with that, people are more important than beliefs. I know this is a big one for our community, and I have found that living abroad really changes your thinking. So I got a chance to study abroad for a semester in Turkey, and I taught in Japan for 2 years, and South Korea for 3, and a year in Russia, and for a little stint in China recently. So with all of that, you know, you have to make a lot of space, and you have to realize that, you know, our thinking can be really different, but what really matters is the people there among us. And that was something I had to learn a lot about, how to meet my students and understand cultural differences. You know, I think it takes a lot of introspective thinking when it comes to things like, how do I accept another culture has something like, say, dog soup? How do I get behind that? Like, coming from my own American values to another culture and trying to find that space in between. I've had to have a lot of talks with myself about, is this a personal conflict or is this a cultural conflict? Where does that go into play? And I think it's an awesome way living abroad, just for Americans to see how other people live and how other people see us too. Yeah, so here are two awesome people from my past. I lived in Japan too, and this was my landlord and landlady. I was thinking about them this week, so I thought I'd post about them as well, just to give you pictures. Okay, and then reality is known through reason. That's evolved a little bit differently in my life. Another area that I think has really given me a lot of opportunities to think critically is my undergraduate alma mater, which was Willich College. It's in Wisconsin. I think of it as being a place that really pushes critical thinking and made me think outside the box constantly. I can't say enough good things about Beloit. It really started my journey on becoming a critical thinker. And later, when I was pregnant with my daughter, we stumbled upon Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, which was another area of my life that made me start to question more about dogma and my experiences based on, spiritual experiences versus science. And so that's still a podcast we listen to regularly. And over time, science and history and my own education has really destroyed dogma for me. I remember my husband showing me a picture and we were just a speck on this huge, picture of space. And after that, I thought, there's just in my mind, whatever God we have considered, it's just, even if there is a God, it is not what we know or could ever understand. So at this point, science has changed my thinking a lot. And also I think like the psychology of people, I think that we've learned so much more about how to treat one another. And I don't think that the past has really, ever understood that. We're progressing so much psychologically that I think that that's a reason to look at reason and think of us more than, dogma. And then lastly, be accepting and be accepted. I wanted to talk about this one. This one is big for us. After spending a lot of years abroad, my family moved a ton in the States as well. We lived in Wisconsin for 2 years. Iowa was the longest we lived anywhere, and that was 6 years, and Illinois, and then to Kansas. So we've been in a lot of places, and we've learned that, to be accepted, you have to be accepting, right? We knew we were going into new territories all the time and had to make space for others. And just hoping that, if we show respect, that will be reciprocated. And we found that a lot at Oasis. And so we have been feeling very accepted, and we hope to extend that to others as time goes on and we continue in our community with you. Oh, here's a picture of us too, if you wanted to see what the rest of us look like. Yeah. Okay. And then the end, my daughter went ahead and helped me make the presentation, so she had to stick in her LOL. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that's everything from me, which is about good for timing too. So yeah, we're gonna move on. It looks like we got one more little info about John Muter's short stories. Sarah says it's wonderful. If you look in the chat, you can find a link so you can check it out to the first line. Yeah, Iowa. And yeah, thanks everybody. We'll continue, I think, with yeah, we've got a break next. Oh, does Nathan have a question for Genevieve? Someone's asking. Okay, let me just double check. Does Nathan have something to say real quick? No. Okay, I think we're okay. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take a 10-minute break. You can go and get coffee. Remember to mute yourself if you decide to stay in the main room because we have kids, and just in case you feel like just saying whatever, you can do it privately by muting. And yeah, we'll take a 10-minute break, stretch your legs, or go and talk to somebody and from our community for a couple minutes. And I'll see you all in a little bit. Okay. Thanks.
I think we'll. Yes. Exclamation point. But we have 1,000 people in that Facebook group. Period.
Everybody's flooding back in, so I guess your 2 minutes are up, or your 10 minutes. I hope that you got to connect with people you haven't seen or meet some new people and get to know each other a little bit better, have good conversation. Yeah, great. Still people are trickling in. So our next activity is going to be a second performance by JJ. I think we're all ready to hear some more JJ after that last Bowie tune. I know I am. JJ, would you be about ready? Maybe not yet. Let's see if he's around.
Is that better?
Yeah, super.
Yeah, there are too many buttons to push on Zoom. It looks like I forgot to tell Zoom not to automatically adjust the mic level. So when I'd get loud, Zoom would be like, "Oh, you're loud," and then it turned.
You're really
down.
quiet still.
Am I really quiet still? Thanks for telling
Yeah.
me. Is that better?
Yes.
It's not the long flowing dress that you're in, or the light coming off of your skin, the fragile heart you've protected for so long, the mercy in your sense of right and wrong. It's not your hand searching slow in the dark, or your nails leaving love's watermark. The way you talk me off the roof, the mercy that direct me to the truth. It's knowing that this can't go on forever. One of these days have to spend some days alone. Maybe we'll get 40 years together, but one day I'll be gone. One day you'll be gone. If we were vampires and death was a joke, we'd go out on the sidewalk and smoke, laugh at all the lovers and their plans. I wouldn't feel the need to hold your hand. Maybe time running out is a gift. I'll work hard till the end of my shift, give you every second I can find, and hope it isn't me who's left behind. It's knowing that this can't go on forever. Likely one of us will have to spend some days alone. Maybe we'll get 40 years together, but one day I'll be gone. One day you'll be gone.
Thank you, JJ. I just have to say, it's amazing that you can just jump on and do something for us in a short amount of time, and we're just here for you. We just love it all, I think. It always feels good to hear you, for sure. Yeah, thank you, JJ. We're going to go ahead and does JJ have a Venmo account? Someone's asking. If you do, could you post it in chat for us? Okay. While JJ is going to go ahead and do that, we're going to move on to our featured speakers, Cam F. Awesome and Canise Salinas Willich. Before we get started, would you guys like to introduce yourselves? Or I also have some bios. What would you prefer? Would you like the bios read or?
Actually, we'll just jump right into it.
Okay, sounds
Yeah.
awesome. All right,
You guys
thanks.
are pretty fun and welcoming.
Right.
I'll take over the share screen if that's okay with everyone here.
Yep.
All right. Boom, boom. Okay. All right, it has been a while since I've seen you guys last. Okay, set everything up. Okay. All right, guys. So it's been a couple years since I presented at Oasis. I do share my Oasis experiences with everyone I meet on my travels. I tell everyone I love the fact that you guys are online now, because it's the community aspect that I feel like so many people are missing in their lives. So my name is Cam F. Awesome, and Canise is my partner. I'm learning a lot from Canise. So I want to just get straight into what we're talking about today and why we're talking about it. As everyone knows, I'm a boxer, and I was a youth speaker before the whole pandemic happened. And right when the pandemic happened, I had to pause through my youth speaking because of the pandemic and the George Floyd incident had happened. And there was a lot of unrest going on, and I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted change, and I knew when I wanted it now, but I didn't actually know what that meant. So what I did was I decided to educate myself and learn about the power struggles and the racism in America and what we actually need as a solution. So I started to educate myself and speak on this to students and talk to students about cultural competence. And the issue I ran into were the educators, the teachers who were teaching these students also didn't know the basics that the students didn't know. And the reason why adults don't know it is because we don't teach it to students. So we have all of these adults in America who lack the basic understanding of cultural competence and the reason why we are the way we are. So my interest in culture was originally came from the fact that I was boxing and I got to travel around the world. I've been to 30 countries, and I learned a little bit about the people of each country throughout their culture. And I'm fascinated by culture. The one place I would love to live for a year is India, because I didn't like curry as a child because I liked mac and cheese. And now I love curry, and I would love to learn more about the Indian culture because the people are beautiful, their culture is beautiful, but I don't understand that. So what I'm interested in is understanding culture and understanding the way we interact with culture. And I would like to introduce Canise.
Hi. Can you hear me? All right. I love Cam, by the way. He's amazing. We got hooked up together through a mutual friend, and we make a good partnership because my background is a little different. So I've been a teacher for many, many years. I taught for 5 years in the Grandview School District. Then I have a master's in counseling, so I've been a counselor in Independence. Then I was an assistant principal at William Chrisman, if anybody's ever been out on that side of the world. I was an assistant for 5 years at the high school. And now I have been an elementary principal in KCK for 10 years. And so education's my thing. For the last 5 years, I got connected with KU, and they have asked me to teach their diversity class, CNT 235. And it's the only diversity class that you have to take as an educator to go out and teach kids. And so my dissertation, I'm in my doctoral program right now. And if there's only one diversity class in your whole time, in your 4 years of going to school, who are you actually teaching? And who are you teaching for? Because if and diversity comes in everything other than race as well. I talk about special education, I talk about gender, I talk about class. And so it's kind of like, for them to think that that diversity only comes in the terms of race is ill-informed. And so people get really scared to talk about diversity and inclusion because they don't understand how big of a picture it is. And so I've been going around talking. I also I teach the diversity class at St. Mary's as well. And so that's all I do. I talk it, I love it, I eat it, I sleep it. And so when Cam said that he goes out and he talks with humor and fun, I said, why don't we join forces? And I have the pedagogy, I have the background, and then you bring the reality and the fun, and we can make this thing happen. And so that's what we've been doing. We want to educate people. We want to educate everybody, because most people think, oh, because brown and black people live in their skin, they know a lot about diversity. We don't. We've had to do our own education because we've been socialized to believe everything that you've been socialized to believe. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And so feel free to use the chat to ask us questions, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, so use the chat box, ask any questions you want, we'll get to it. So let's get into what our goals and objectives are. What we want to do today is, and it's going to be brief because, this is pretty short, but we want to understand also, that's Bella, that's my dog. What we want to do is we want to understand socialization and allyship. Now, okay. All right, so let's go over some norms, because what we like to do is kind of set the tone of what people should be expecting. So keep work front and center in our conversations. Any questions you ask, try to have it pertain to what we're discussing. Be fully present, ignore the dog in the background, and stay on mute if you can. What we want to do is promote equity in voices, which we mean just use the chat box to share your thoughts. If you have any questions, you could ask through the chat box. Want to engage actively, invest in your growth and in the growth of others, because we don't only want to educate ourselves, we want to educate the people around us. We want to respect confidentiality. Las Vegas rules are always in effect. There is no such thing as a stupid question. Well, actually, I take that back. That might be the case, but not in this room, because there are stupid questions out there, and I had a bunch of them. And not until I started asking those stupid questions were they no longer stupid questions. They're only stupid questions if someone doesn't have the answer to them, because we don't know everything. And the idea of socialization is actually, that's the perfect transition. We want to assume best intentions and avoid assumptions. So what we want to talk about is, how did we get here? How did we get here to the point of the current administration, from the terrorist attacks or treason that happened this last week, through the George Floyd incident, basically the power dynamic in America? How did we get here? So a few questions I want you guys to ask yourselves. What is socialization? In which ways have you been socialized, and how does your socialization impact your behavior? So is anyone very familiar with socialization? And actually, let me check the chat box.
I'm watching it too.
Okay, you watch a chat box. Because I'm sharing, I can't see the chat box.
We have an expert in the house. Jeremy is an expert, and so I'm watching Jeremy in his green sweatshirt. So I'm waiting for him to jump right in when he can.
Oh, Jeremy's an expert? Okay, yeah. Awesome. So is anyone familiar with the cycle of socialization? Canise, I'll let you take it over.
Sure. So the socialization, it's a mouthful as well. There's really two ways we're socialized. We're socialized by our family, friends, and peers, and then by social media. And now, in the past, it used to just be TV, and now you can name about 100 other ways we are socialized from Twitter and Facebook and all these other ways. But if you've never seen this cycle, take a moment to look at it. Because in the top, it's a cut off just a little bit, but it'll say in the beginning, then it'll say institutional, then they'll tell you a little bit about what your enforcements are, and then all the way in the purple is when you get to the action steps. So by the time that you're in action, you could be 50 years old past before you even get to this part. If you're like Casey Oasis, you may get to this point in your 20s because you're so open and you talk about issues and you talk about things and you debunk the myths. But many people are not like your group, and they live in this yellow place where they're reinforced, bombarded with messages, and it can come from anywhere, from their church, from their school, from TV, from the legal system, from song lyrics, from practices. And by the time they get around the corner, it's been reinforced. They've been sanctioned, stigmatized. They've been punished for their beliefs. They walk around without privilege, without knowing that they carry certain privileges. But then there are some people who have to live in discrimination and then disempowerment or empowerment. It could be either way. And so by the time you get into the red area, you have so much information in your head. What's right, what's wrong. I love the advent calendar. We, in our breakout, we talked about an advent calendar up until inauguration. And what was cool about what Sarah said, was it Sarah and Denise? What was cool about it is that now that they have information, they're able to make some decisions about how they believe. But there are still people who have been silenced, who are afraid to talk openly about their beliefs. They're in a state of cognitive dissonance, which is, I know something and I know it now, but it may conflict with what I believe. So what I know and what I believe are at odds together. It's like the shoulders are fighting each other. But in the midst of all of that confusion, it can come with guilt. I know someone very close to me who I work with, whose brother and sister are very far right. She is very far left, and it is bringing a collision, and she feels guilty at times that she feels the way she feels, but why should she feel guilty? And so then you have some self-hatred and stress, and there's so much. Look at that red. That's why it's in red. It's like turmoil at the highest level. But then after that, after all of this turmoil and understanding and frustration and arguing with the people that you love and trying to teach people all the things that you know, and like, look at the television, look at what is happening. How could you sit back and watch this? How are you, and them telling their side, but it's finances. It's look how big our stocks have gotten. The conversations are all over the place. But I was getting there, Oasis. Good job. At the core of all of this is fear, ignorance, confusion, and insecurity. And if you look at TV, everything that they want us to believe is all born out of what? Fear. And they want to keep you fearful so that you cannot make a rational decision. They keep you fearful so that you stay ignorant about what really is happening. You stay fearful so that you're confused, and you watch one station and they said one thing, you look at the newspaper, they say something else, you read a magazine and it says something completely different. And with all of that comes insecurity. I don't know how to feel. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to stand on my moral grounds. Where, people don't, morality is not even here any longer. And so that's where then the action takes place. And I'm going to stop there because we're going to talk a little bit about that. So Cam,
Yeah.
anything in the
Yeah.
chat come up?
No, no. People like their comfort zones. This is Jeremy. People like their comfort zone. Training like this takes them out of it. Yes, Jeremy. And to that point, we've all heard that America is like a melting pot. I've heard that my entire life. I lived in New York until I was 18. Melting pot, melting pot, melting pot. But what I found out is that life is more like America is more of a bento box than a melting pot, because even when we live in the same city, we occupy different areas. Now, we don't have the time to get into redlining and the reason why we are all in our separate pockets. But there has been or a toss salad, heyo. But there's a specific reason why we are in our own sections. And the problem is, when we're in our own sections, we don't know anything about people on the outside. So if you're the pretzel people and you don't know anything about the chocolate people, you're going to make your assumptions, you're going to keep your distance, but those assumptions are going to be wrong because you don't have their perspective, you don't know what they're experiencing. Now, if you're the chocolate people and you don't know the pretzel people, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to keep your distance, you're going to make your assumptions. Those wrong assumptions will drive you further apart. But we run into cognitive dissonance when we get to the point of our life where we realize there are people in our lives who are chocolate pretzels. They might be a mix of both. They might be a little bit of that group we don't like. Then we have to start asking ourselves, is this person a bad person, or am I battling internally? Now, if you were to ask the strawberry people, if you were to gather the strawberry people together and have a debate on who makes the best jelly, who do you think the strawberry people are going to say? Of course, they're going to say the strawberry people, because we feel very comfortable in our comfort zones, but the only place that's better than our comfort zones are echo chambers. And an echo chamber is an environment in which a person encounters only beliefs or opinions that coincide with their own, so that their existing views are reinforced and alternative ideas are not considered. Now, I'm guilty of it. We are all guilty of being in our comfort zones and finding, like, my favorite thing about Oasis is it's people from all over who are like, it's not the run of the mill normal people. No offense. You're my favorite people. This is one of the only places I feel welcome because there are people from all different parts of life. But a lot of times when we find our Facebook groups or we're on social media, we only see our own information and we start thinking our own information is the only information. And what happens is this cycle of socialization continues and we never break out of it. So what we want to do is talk about and we're short on time. So Canise is going to talk about the ways we can break out of the cycle of socialization into the different cycle.
Yeah. And so go to the liberation cycle. So we talked about this. So the goal though is once we uh, talk and have these talks, and Jeremy knows these talks cannot be one time. These talks have to be over and over, year after year. It's like, it won't be like riding a bike. It's more like climbing a mountain, because you can get to a certain place in the mountain and then you say, okay, that's enough. That's as high of an altitude I want to go. You can keep going and say, I'm going to try to go higher, because this conversation and this type of depth of knowledge takes you completely out of what you were taught and what you believed. And you have to make a determination on if I'm going to believe what I want to believe and move on into action, or stay where I'm at. And so, in the core of liberation, look what's there. And I feel like this group, I don't even know you guys that well, and I feel it, I sense it, but you are at the stage of self love, self esteem, balance, joy, support, security, and a grounded spiritual base. Look at where that's at. And it doesn't say religious base, it says spiritual base. And at the first, semi square triangle thing there is that waking up. It's like we've all been in a fog for all these years. And 2020 like slapped us in the face and woke us up. A critical incident happened in our world that made us have to stop and look. And now we have this cognitive dissonance that we're all living in. And now it's our choice to empower ourselves. We could do some intrapersonal, and that's what me and Cam talk about in our sessions, is you got to go inward before you can go outward. And then you can go and you can reach out. You can talk about building a community, changing the way that we think and how we feel. You can go and start organizing, spaces like this for you to talk about it. And then it's that creating that change. The cool thing about this cycle to me is it is ever flowing. It is ever flowing year after year. You could just continue in this space and learn and grow and learn and grow. There was someone in the chat said, I don't believe my family is capable of changing, and that is so and that's one thing that I'm noticing with lots of people is that it's like you want to talk to people, but it's falling on deaf ears. You're like talking to a wall when you want to tell, and it's not even like we used to use the analogy when you talk to grandpa. It's not even grandpa anymore. It is your husband, your brother, your colleague, your friend. It's not even people that are living in or a generational gap. It is people that you really love in the same household, and you're fighting amongst liberals and conservatives and views. And at the ground of all of that is like, but are we people and do we love everyone? And so it's just hard. Someone else says, how do you suggest dealing with many people around this that are stuck?
Actually, that brings us to the next topic. And what we want to do, David Rick says, for me, I don't believe my family is capable of change. That is why we're here, because a lot of information is shared online. And of course, it's shared in echo chambers, so it gets that steam. But when it breaks out of the echo chambers and it's showed to someone who doesn't agree with it, it's difficult when it's just a meme or a tweet, because what happens is there's not enough conversation. So people just yell back and forth via messages, then block each other. And friends stop speaking to each other, families stop speaking to each other. What is there to be done? And a lot of people reached out to me now that I'm speaking with students about this, saying, Cam, what can I do as a white person, as a white male? What do you want from me? How do we solve this problem? And that's where we get into allyship. And Canise can speak a little bit on allyship.
Well, let me answer a question first, though, or ask a question. Is it your job to change others? Because at the end of the day, it's about you. And so people will learn through you. And so if you will be that vessel, that if you continue to do what you do and love the people that you love, things around you, you will see things change around you. But I don't believe that you can go out and change others. Now you can agree to disagree, and and you'll say, well, life is hard then. Life is hard living in a house where someone doesn't believe, we don't have the same beliefs. And I'm going to say today that this kind of work is not easy. And so Cam and I both have spouses who are white. And so these conversations have been really hard. And Cam's his girlfriend, she's woke. Like, I mean, she's
teaching me.
She's teaching Cam some things. And not to say that my husband is not. It's just that he grew up differently than I did. And he sees things differently than I did. And his family sees things differently than I did.
And that's socialization.
And it is. And so I'm not saying that any of this is easy. My children are from a Hispanic background. And so I have lots of cultures going on in my house constantly. And so having to teach others has been what I have chosen to do as my life work. And so a lot of this, no one wants to choose this. This is too hard. I'd rather go to the bar, hang out and watch sports and just like avoid these things. But in our avoidance is what has happened and what we're watching on television today.
Yeah. Avoidance. Yeah. Jeremy probably knows, like back when you're speaking on this, people try to avoid conversations with you because they don't want to have the actual real talk. So what we want to do is we want to have the actual real talk with people, but we want to give them direction. So we have allyship. Now, you have the agent to bystander. Agent is someone who actively joins in on the negative behavior that's going on. We know who these people are. Okay. Now you can either be an active agent or a passive agent where you hear a bigoted comment or a racist comment or a homophobic comment or a transphobic comment or a xenophobic comment, and you just stay quiet because you know what, that person's an idiot. You don't need to talk to them, but you perpetuate that behavior. Now, what you can do is you can move on from becoming a bystander, from being agent to a bystander, uh, and educate yourself. And that's what we're doing here. And the fact that you guys are tuned in and are on this Zoom, that you're interested in educating yourself. Now, number 4 on this list is interrupt the behavior. Now, the way this has manifested itself in our society as of recent in the last 2 or 3 years, especially with the Me Too movement, is to interrupt the behavior. Now, interrupting behavior has turned also into cancel culture, which is sometimes necessary, but not always necessary. Because I have said some terrible things in the past because in my socialization, I didn't know that these words were offensive or these words were rude. It was normal for me to use. Now, if someone sees or says, "Oh, you can't be woke now, Cam. You can't talk about diversity and inclusion. You used to say these words." And yeah, I did. I used to say those words. And someone told me that those words were bad and I stopped. And now I actually speak on it. So if you can take someone who was ignorant, who actually educated themselves, uh, I had my behavior was interrupted by friends and family who told me better. Now, if they were to just cancel me, not speak to me again, and not tell me what to do, well, what am I supposed to do then? Because there are a lot of people who made their decision to vote in 2016 and voted, let's say they voted for Trump, and maybe by 2017, they're like, this was a mistake. I know a lot of those people who made their decision based off taxes or pro rights reasons. And once they saw what has happened, they decided to, they kind of step back. And I see a lot of people who are on the left that are like yelling at those people and saying, well, you shouldn't have voted for him. I hate you and we're going to cancel you. Like, what do you want from 49% of the country? If we're going to be unified, we have to understand that we can't just cancel people. So number 5 is interrupt and educate. And what I want to call that is not my original term, but counsel culture. So instead of cancel culture, we move to counterculture. We interrupt behavior like my behavior was interrupted, and I became educated on it, and now my behavior changed. And Canise and I have moved on to number 6, which is initiate an organized response, and that is what we're doing right now. And I think the organized response is the missing piece because what Canise and I are doing now, starting Thursdays, we're going to do these talks similar to what we're doing right now via Zoom. And we're going to be doing our first cozy conversations with Canise and Cam, candid discussion around race, power, and privilege in America. So what we would like to do is have these conversations the way we're having now, have the chat box going to be able to, for people to ask questions because we all have questions and we need specific questions answered. During our short presentation today, we were very vague with terms, and I will share a link to that. But today we've been very vague, but we're going to go into detail on Thursday. We haven't decided the exact day we're going to do this weekly, but what we're going to do is take the audio, strip it, and post it as a podcast and share the video on YouTube for people to not only educate themselves, but educate family members. So if you have that racist uncle who doesn't believe they're racist and doesn't quite get it, instead of yelling at them on Facebook, send them the link and invite them to one of our discussions where they can not only ask questions, they can share their own personal experiences and they can feel heard. Because I believe the big issue here is that voices aren't being heard. And I believe this is the next step on the cycle of liberation.
And let me pop in, Cam, to say that we don't have all the answers either. So we're learning from you, and we learn every week. And I'm going to say right now, disclosure, the word color blindness. I used to go around when I was younger and go, I'm colorblind. I don't see color. I don't see. And so we all, and I just got that message from David, who said people do change no matter how far off the beaten path we think they are. But we're learning so much as we go through 2020. We shouldn't have to, we think we shouldn't have to learn so much in this category, but maybe it took the world having to stop in order for us to really look at it and understand it. And so, again, we learn every time we do a talk like this, but we thought that if we didn't talk and things are quiet, people are not going to learn. That's what's been happening for centuries, right? And so now we're going to try to break that and have these weekly conversations to get people to talk.
Yes, and I'm actually going to send a link into the chat box. We are at the very beginning phases. This is going to be our first one on Thursday. And what we want to do is we want to find out the issues that people are actually having. So one of them would be, we'd like to know what topics you would want discussed on a weekly basis. And this is open to all ages. It's not 18 and over. You can invite your children, because for some reason we think, let's not talk to our kids about race, and let's just send them to school with people who look just like them. And then when they go off to the working world, they're going to be literally in the most diverse area that they're going to be so uncomfortable with. So what I think we should do is we should actually prepare our children to deal with people who don't look like them, who don't act like them, and who don't think like them, and socialize them to other cultures. So you can
and Cam, young people have opinions, very strong opinions. Now that might not be the same opinion as yours. And so you're living in the household with a group of people who don't think like you, and you need to be talking about how all of us think. And it's okay for everyone to think differently, but how are you thinking and where's your information coming from?
Sorry, in the chat box, I put a Google form. If anyone feels comfortable filling it out, it's anonymous.
You guys, you're doing great. And this is all so super valuable. I think that we've learned a lot. Are there extra slides? Are you about at the end of the presentation so we could do questions next?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to check. Are you guys?
Yeah, we're at the end of it, and we'll share the link for our discussion on Thursday. We'll go a little bit more in depth into the discussion and have some questions and answers. Would love to hear your feedback on the discussions you would like to hear, and we can specify them to wherever your needs are.
Awesome. I know I'm going to be there. I think my husband Jeremy, he'll be there too. I'm pretty sure we're both excited to be involved in this. Yeah, so do we have any questions for Canise and Cam?
And please unmute yourself. Don't ask the question in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. While we're waiting, I was writing down a couple of things that I was thinking about as you guys were talking. Yeah, I think a lot of us right now are struggling with relatives. Before this morning's meeting, I know some of us were talking about how we can have some level of compassion for those who have voted differently and where their headspace might be. I know some of us don't want to think about that. Some of us do. Some of us want to consider it, because we're all in a different state, I think, right now as a country. No matter which political side you are on, I think everybody's brain is overloaded with thoughts right now. Yeah, can you post this? Okay, to the Oasis link. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think we should be able to do that, to post onto the Oasis page. Can we also share this like on Facebook, like personally, if we want, to gather people? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can share, and I can stop sharing the screen so we can see more of each other.
Awesome.
See all the beautiful faces.
I had a question.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah.
Hi, yes. I had a big conversation just last evening with somebody, a friend of mine, and he was saying that, things happen to make changes like this, the Floyd event, but his comment was that our memories are so short. It just runs the cycle and it goes away before change actually happens. How do you comment to that?
Well, this is
Yeah.
this is what we're actually doing right now, because once an event happens, we'll be here weekly to actually discuss it and keep the conversation going, and not just short memes or blurbs. Actually, and we don't have all the answers, but the issue isn't with looking for the answers. The issue is miscommunication, and if people can actually have the discussion. And what I've found is anytime someone disagrees with me on Facebook about anything political or anything too intense, Cam calls them up. And if, like, check my Facebook page from the last week as an example, all of those people who argued, I call them all up. And no one really keeps that same energy on the phone as they do on social media. I've never, with the exception of one person, probably 30 of them, we've all gotten off the phone. Sometimes it takes 15 minutes. I spoke to one gentleman from Dallas, Mr. Hoffman, for 4 hours. And he sent me a text November 1st to tell me that he will not be voting in the election because he understands that because of what I told him, he said he refused to vote for Trump. He's not voting for Biden, but it at least changed his perspective a little bit. These are conversations that we need to have.
And Mary, and Kim, this was going to say, and Sarah hit it on the nose too. One, we're desensitized. We look at television as if we're looking at a movie. And as soon as that Floyd incident happened, it was as if we were watching the Terminator or something on TV. You turn it off and you're on to the next event or the next movie that occurs. And Sarah hit it on the nose. Those people who say, how do you go through to, keep it alive? It's up to you to make it a learning opportunity. It's going to be up to you if you are really invested in this topic or in learning about how to make change. You're going to find the opportunities to continue to keep the conversation going. Because we always tell everybody, you can sit in this space and it's okay. Because everybody, no one's bad. And we always talk about, no one's bad people. You're just trying to live day to day like everybody else. Some people's day to day looks better and some people's day to day looks worse. And how much can you put on your shoulders and how much weight can you take? And that's my counseling piece of that. Because if you keep putting stuff into your cup and it boils over, we don't want to put things in that boil over, but are you educating yourself to help you to not boil over in situations where you can control? And so some people will look at this and go, you know what, this was great, but I'm good. And then there'll be some people who say, give me a book, give me a movie, give me something so I can continue. And then where can I go? How can I be an ally? And how can I give back? And so there is a continuum. And I think anybody on the continuum can be in any places at any time. And in 3 or 4 years, a light bulb may come up because you might get a chocolate covered pretzel in your family. And now it's going to force you to have to learn. Yep. And so it's like, it's whenever the door opens for you is when I feel like you should come to this conversation. I don't want to force anyone into doing something that they're not comfortable with, except my husband. But that's it.
Jude, could you actually unmute yourself and just kind of ask the questions with a little bit of specifics? Because like what we want to talk about is actual specifics and situations in your life, because you can't Google something too specific.
Yeah. So I find myself usually not able to get past with my family and that have conservative views. We disagree on whether or not discrimination exists as a thing. So how are we even able to move past that to fixing anything or to what would help our society if we can't even agree that there's actually something to have as a problem? And any kind of sources I bring are just not believed because that's not, they don't want to believe that source. I don't know how to get past even facts. I can't get past there.
I've found some luck in the Harvard implicit bias test. Now, when I talk about that, not when I introduce that test to people, I let them know when I first took the test, I had an implicit bias against Black people. Now, for those of you without a camera, I am Black. Now, what that test does is it actually show, and there's different ones you can take for religion, for race, for gender, to see what your biases are. And once I was able to show my biases are against Black people, one of the examples I use is it doesn't matter. It's what you're socialized against. So if I'm biased against Black people, I can be Black. And if I'm a police officer, everything I've seen on television has socialized me to believe that I should pull Black people over. Black people are more dangerous. Even as a Black person, I would do that. So when we talk about police officers targeting Black people, we're not talking about white police officers targeting Black people. We're talking about socialized American officers targeting Black people and the impact of that. And once you bring up the numbers, when you pick up the numbers and you realize there are more Black people who are pulled over than white people, and Black people are only, I believe, 13% of the population. Once you have those numbers, if you aren't willing to accept that as a sign of discrimination, then you might be wasting your time trying to have that conversation with that person at that particular point.
And Jude, let me say this, and I'm very candid because this is what we do. But white people can live and die white, right? You can have white babies, have a white wedding, have a white funeral, and die white. So if it doesn't matter, because the question would be, Jude, is does it matter? You do not have to have, white people don't have to have a colored person in their immediate group, in their friend group. If they don't think people of color value or add value to their lives, they don't really need to, right? And so the question would be, do people or minority people bring value to your life? And if someone says no, or could they bring value to your life? And so I think it's a deeper thing. It's a deeper understanding. It's a deeper conversation with people who do not want to see what they see and do not want to believe what they believe. Because if they don't believe that a minority person could bring any value to their life, which we all know that is not true, because I can bring some spice to your life. But if you do not, then it's as if you don't know where to start the conversation. You got to have a starting point. And if it's sports, let it be sports. Do you watch football? How can you sit here and watch football when all the players are Black? How can you watch basketball when all the players are Black? How can you now watch golf and many of them are minorities? And so maybe the conversation doesn't start with race, start outside of race. Where we're going to this Mexican restaurant, you sure do love this food here, so-and-so. Why do you love this food so much? And so it's only when you get to the conversation about Black people is when it really gets uncomfortable. Because many people can talk about many different races, but when you talk about Black, it gets really uncomfortable.
Canise, we're running out of time, and I want to see if we could get any more questions in. Yeah, I think Denise has a question for Cam, and maybe we'll make this the last one, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe afterwards. I know a lot of times, if you two are willing, I know after we end, sometimes we keep going during Zoom. Would you
actually
we
would be willing, but we would actually love if they would come on Thursday.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
My question for Cam, because this was an exact traffic statistics. I live in Northtown. It's a little, a pocket town in north of downtown, and they released their statistics, and they were horrible. And of course, it gets commented on the neighborhood Facebook page, and they were just being totally ignorant. And so I said, well, what do these statistics show to you? I mean, they're searching vehicles for people of color 10 times as much as they are white people, and yet they're finding more illegal substances on white people. And so it came down to me and a guy from China, I believe. And he said, well, they've always been great to me. And I said, look at the statistics. You are the only person here more privileged than me. And he quit talking to me. So I don't know, other than saying, look at the statistics, you know, they would look at the statistics and see something altogether different. And I'm like, how do you talk to them? I mean, sorry, you can see how I talk to them. I get frustrated and go, are you kidding me? So how do you have that conversation politely?
I always have the conversation with zero investment in changing anyone's mind. Because if you have any preconceived thought that you might change someone's mind, you have an expectation, and when that expectation isn't met, you're faced with anger. So if I don't have an expectation, I don't really get upset during these conversations, because to me, as Kenny says, it doesn't make you a bad person. There are other things that make you a bad person, but it shouldn't be your socialization. And I believe exposure is the only thing that can contain ignorance. So if I talk to a person about that, I might plant a seed, and vegans love planting. So I plant seeds with different people, and maybe Denise, I talk to you about it and you're like, I don't believe racism exists. I planted a seed. Maybe the next person you talk to down the road will plant another seed, and eventually it may grow and someone will water that seed. But I'm not going to just start to beat you with a shovel if you're not listening to me.
Okay, yeah, I am too invested in getting him to at least look at the statistics, but
Yeah. Oh, and it is nothing short of, as Jeremy can probably attest to this, it's nothing short of frustrating. But again, you have to hold your moral ground. And I try not to stoop down to anyone's level, because what I'm bringing is fact. I don't even raise my voice. If you're not interested in it, I can move on to someone else.
yeah, I wasn't rude. As this was all on Facebook, I wasn't rude, but I did say, look at the statistics. I mean, and the nicest I did was tell me what those statistics say to you. That's when they quit talking.
Oh, yeah, and also, Denise, I don't want to make it sound like this is how I always am, this calm, cool, and collected. I'm working on that. It is a process. No one is perfect. Sometimes people just drive me wild, but it comes with the territory, and I don't expect, America didn't happen like this overnight. It's not going to change overnight, but we have to move towards the right direction.
Okay, I'll work on that, not being too invested in changing them.
Sometimes you don't have to equivocate to tell the truth, though.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for your questions. And I'd really like to give a round of applause to Canise and Cam for yet again, teaching us so much about how to be better. Yeah. And I'm so excited about the Thursday. Zoom. I know I can tell people are looking forward to it, and it's at 6 on Thursday. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk more with you and learn. And yeah. Okay. Before we go, there's a few more things I need to let you know about for this, our meeting today. So OASIS is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are entirely volunteer staffed and donation funded. Our program today is just part of the wide range of informational, educational, and motivational speakers we offer most Sundays. If you appreciate what you've heard and seen, please consider making a donation. There are several ways to donate. We are credit and debit card. We have you can do credit or debit card donations and buy some merch if you go check out our webpage. You can also text 816-839-7656 with a dollar amount if you'd like. Also, we have recurring weekly and monthly donations set up online through Simple Give. If you go to our website, kcoasis.org, and click on donate at the top of the homepage, you can get that set up. So I think that's about it. First, I would like to thank JJ and Cam and Canise for coming today and giving us some of your energy and time. So JJ, would you like to play us out for this Sunday afternoon?
Sure. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Oh, I saw a lot of thumbs there. People be suffering. All right, I don't know if I'm going to pull this one off. Don't know what time it was, the lights were low. I leaned back on my radio. Some cat was laying down some rock and roll, a lot of soul, he said. Then the loud sounded to seem to fade. Came back like a slow voice of a phase. That wasn't no DJ, that was hazy cosmic jive. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'll blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He told us not to blow it. Who knows it's all worthwhile? He told me, let the children use it. Let the children lose it. Let all the children boogie. To phone someone, so I picked on you. Hey, that's far out, so you heard him too. Switch on the TV, we may pick him up on channel 2. Look out your window, I can see his light. If we can sparkle, he may land tonight. Don't tell your papa or he'll get us locked up in fright. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. He told me, let the children lose it. Let the children use it. Let all the children boogie. Starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'll blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. He told me, let the children lose it. Let the children use it. Let all the children boogie. Na 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 na
Yay, JJ, you made my day. Oh my gosh. I'm super stoked.
Thanks, JJ. Thanks, everybody. Take it easy, and maybe we'll see you Thursday, but at least next Sunday.